نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار. We'll get started in just one moment. نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. I'll wait for just another moment. Sorry, we're also kind of putting her to sleep right now, so she's going to be joining us for class today, mashallah. نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله واستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم Bismillah. All right. Bismillah. Bismillah. All right. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين آمين آمين. Alhamdulillah, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to have a special guest with us today for class, alhamdulillah. But inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue on in our discussion with the clarification of noble character. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be continuing on with lesson 6 today. And lesson 6 is all about forbearance. Lesson 6 is all about forbearance. Okay? And now the previous chapter, so actually the previous 3 lessons, we were covering the concept of patience. We discussed about the significance of patience, patience in its practical application, and then also emulating the people of patience. And how do we take the examples of others and then utilize it within our own lives? Because it's one thing to see the example, whether it's in stories in the Quran or stories of the Sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or stories of righteous that came before us. But it's another thing on how do we take this lesson and how we inculcate it into our lives, right? And so now we're moving past that, and we're going to even like a slight subsection, if you will, of patience. And we're going to talk about forbearance. Okay, and forbearance, it has a difference from patience that we'll get to, inshallah ta'ala. There's a difference between the two, and we'll get to that, inshallah ta'ala. But in any regard, forbearance specifically comes in, right? Al-hilm in the Arabic language, hilm, or forbearance, really comes in at the point of anger. Whereas patience more so is a general type of withholding, whether it's due to anger or misfortune or any other kind of experience that we're going through. And we went through the different kinds of patience, the 3 different types of patience that one could have. Sabr ala ta'at, upon obedience. Sabr anil ma'asi, patience against disobedience. And we also had sabr indal shida'id, or having patience at the time of misfortunes. Right? And so, inshallah ta'ala, forbearance specifically is when we're at that point of anger. Right? We're at the point of anger, inshallah ta'ala. And so, khair, inshallah, we'll start with where the author wants to start. And so he mentions that in the previous chapter on the subject of patience, reference was made to the noble quality of forbearance, hilm. Right? Allah created his prophets and messengers with this quality and uses it to describe himself in his book. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one who is forbearing is almost a prophet, right? And so he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this is narrated in a Daylami. He mentioned this sallallahu alaihi wasallam in essence like to mention that when we aspire to high qualities of character, high characteristics, right? That these are the specific things that distinguish individuals in terms of their taqwa and piety, that separate them in degrees with one another, right? These are the things that do that. And so having a great degree of hilm is something that is a quality of the messengers of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and of the anbiya and of the prophets as well. And so inshallah ta'ala, this is one of the qualities that if we were to don this quality and take it on as a garment, that it's something that allows us to emulate the entire best people of creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Forbearance is a quality that raises the one who possesses it in status above his peers. It is so great a quality that true knowledge cannot be obtained without it first being established. Right? So true knowledge cannot be attained without it first being established. So essentially, right, it's essentially what we're talking about is having a sense of patience, but it's at the exact moment of the most intense, the apex of whatever situation that you're dealing with before you leap over that threshold of anger, right? It's at the exact apex. And for the individual to be able to restrain themselves, remember, we mentioned that intelligence is inhibition against falling into error, falling into sin, or falling into transgression. And so for the person that's endowed with true intelligence or true knowledge, that they utilize that in such a way, they're utilizing it in such a way, see, she's getting big now, can't even put my head over her, but they're using it in such a way where they're using it to inhibit themselves. And so when we learn about Islam, when we learn the various teachings of Islam or what have you, we're learning in such a way that way we can utilize it, and no better place to utilize it than when it comes to at points of anger, or at points in which we need to show restraint, at points in which we need to show that type of intelligence and inhibit ourselves from falling into further transgression. Okay. So forbearance is self-control at times of anger. Once a man sought the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, "La taghdab, do not get angry." فَرَدَّدَ مِرَارًا فَقَالَ لَا تَغْضَبْ. And so the man repeated his request and approached the Prophet ﷺ once again, and the Prophet ﷺ said, "Do not get angry." Then the Prophet ﷺ said, "Woe unto you, do you not understand? I told you not to get angry." The scholars say the meaning of do not get angry is do not act upon that anger. right? Because emotions are natural. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human being with emotions. Let's see if she wants to do this. Bismillah. There. Let's not get pen on her. Alright, so the scholar said that when the Prophet ﷺ was advising this man to not get angry, that it wasn't in a sense of do not experience the emotion of anger. However, do not act out because of your anger, right? Do not act out through the anger. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with emotions. He created us with sadness. He created us with happiness. He created us with anger. He created us with confusion. He created us with all the emotions that a human being can experience. And it's not from the perfection of one's character that one eliminates a particular emotion, right? From feeling or experiencing a particular emotion. That's not from the perfection of character as indicated by the hadith and indicated by the explanation of our ulama, of our scholars. Rather, it's channeling the emotion and beautifying oneself with being able to put that emotion in its proper place, to restrain that emotion from going beyond the limits of Allah, right? And so when it comes to anger, we are going to feel angry. That's okay. It's okay to feel angry. Maybe somebody are naturally hot-headed and they feel more angry than others. Maybe some people are less. But the point is that no matter how frequently or infrequently we feel it, that at the point of anger, that at the point in which we're at our most intense, that we don't act in such a way that acts out specifically for the anger, right? That was never a quality of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whenever he got angry, it would only be for the sake of Allah azza wa jal. But it would never be for the sake of his own ego. It would never be for the sake of his own ego. And so we constrain ourselves at the point of anger, especially when it's regards to ourselves. Especially when it's regards to slights to our own ego, inshallah ta'ala. And so the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said in a hadith, لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِسُرْعَةٍ وَإِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ الَّذِي يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ غَضَبٍ. That a strong person is not someone who can out-wrestle others, but he is the one who controls himself when he is angry. And so just another hadith from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that emphasizes that it's not strength or intelligence or a sign of something praiseworthy, right? It's not a sign of strength or praiseworthiness or what have you that an individual has outward physical dominance over others, right? Rather, it's strong, it's praiseworthy, it's intelligent, it's it's a good quality. It's a sign of excellence in character and quality when one has that dominance over his or her lower self, over acting out on his or her emotions in a way that transgresses the limits of Allah, in a way that transgresses the rights of others, in a way that harms others and hurts others, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, what have you. That when a person goes beyond their own self and they harm somebody else in such a way, or they transgress and they go beyond what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has deemed halal permissible for us and enters into the impermissible, such as if somebody hits another person in the face or something like that, or just hits another person, period, without any kind of reason, without any kind of recourse, without any kind of sharia reason or anything such as that that's been legislated. That is something that goes beyond the limits of Allah, and that's when we're at the point of transgressing. That's when we're at the point of being beyond our control, of being able to express ourselves, or being able to properly express our anger in that moment. Right? And so that's something in which we have to rein that in. We have to bring that in. Right? And that's forbearance. Right? So it's not that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that he never gets angry in the first place. That's the person who's strong. No, but when the person does get angry, that they bring it back, that they're able to hold themselves back, that they're able to take a moment, pause, chill, remove themselves from the situation, whatever it may be. That's the definition of strength. That's the definition of what a good characteristic or quality it is, what a noble quality it is for an individual to have. In other words, real strength is not displayed in physical prowess, but rather in the ability to control oneself when angry. The forbearing one, if he becomes angry, controls himself and is able to remain balanced so that he always behaves in a way that is appropriate. And then the author continues, how many times a day is your anger aroused? If you are quick to react and become agitated, you must learn to refine your behavior on the basis of the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. You must learn forbearance until you become used to not responding to bad treatment in kind, but instead respond with grace, overlooking the shortcomings of others. You thus obtain the quality of forbearance which your Lord loves to see in you. One of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Halim, the forbearing one. And there's various attributes or names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that human beings can also share qualities of. Right? One of them is Al-Halim, right? We can have Hilm, we can have forbearance. We're not Al-Halim, but we can show forbearance, right? Another one is him being Ar-Rahim, the merciful, right? We can show Rahmah, we can show mercy as well as human beings, right? So these names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's various names, not every single one, but there's various names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has named Himself with that are also praiseworthy qualities for individuals, for people to follow. Naturally, of course, when that's something that is, that makes sense, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see qualities within us, the beautiful qualities within us, that which He's also described Himself with, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kamil, He is perfect. He is beyond any kind of deficiency, beyond any kind of beyond. He is beyond, period. He is beyond, period. And so that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described Himself with, if we have the ability as human beings to don that characteristic within such a way that falls within the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we're able to do that, that's something, a praiseworthy quality that we also need to follow as well. And so al-hilm, or being halim, being forbearing, that this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see from us, inshallah ta'ala. And it's something that God wants from us. Something that God wants from us. And ultimately, what greater motivation should we have other than knowing that God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wants to see within us something? Right? That should be our greatest motivation. The thing that moves us towards action. To be of the people that God wants. To be of the people that God loves to see within us certain things. Right? And Hilm, the forbearance, is amongst them. Forbearance by its nature saves people from many pitfalls. On the other hand, a mere word spoken in anger or an anger-provoked reaction can be the cause of much evil and damage. Right? Thus a wise man once said, when you become angry, remember the anger of Allah. Control yourself by fearing the wrath of the one who possesses awesome power and force. Remember Allah's power over you if you become angry and are able to get the better of your antagonist. You may respond to your antagonist in kind, but a higher level is reflected in the Quranic verse. If a person forgives and makes reconciliation, his reward is due directly from Allah. And that comes from Surah Shura, the 43rd chapter of the Quran, 40th verse. Bismillah. Alright, so, khalas. Now we'll keep going. Bismillah. It is narrated in a hadith that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes His servants stand before Him on the Day of Judgment, it will be said, arise, those whose reward is due directly from Allah, and enter paradise. It will be asked, who are those whose reward is due directly from Allah? Those that forgave others, will be the response. Then many thousands of people will rise and enter paradise without any recompense. Right? Without any recompense from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's a narration that's found in the collection of Ibn Abi Dunya. But the point of the hadith, really, the point of the hadith is to, again, emphasize, just like what we mentioned about the hadith that was mentioned in regards to those that can display forbearance, that they are almost reached a station of the prophets, right? And just like this, that these individuals will be able to enter into the garden of heaven without any kind of recompense. It goes to show its high station. It goes to show its praiseworthiness. And it's also its rareness as well, for an individual to have a sense of forbearance, a sense of hilm, and be able to restrain themselves at the point of anger. That this is something rare for a human being to do. How many people are going to be on Yom Qiyamah? Yeah, only thousands will stand that were able to show this quality. Yet thousands will stand. Out of how many millions, billions, trillions of people, or however many, right? La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Forgiveness and forbearance are only manifested by a person in a position of strength. It's key. So, we mentioned obviously at the point of anger, right? And now, we could be at a point of anger, but we might not be in a position to actually cause harm to somebody, right? And so we're not really in a position of actually being able to do damage, right? And so that's not forbearance, but forbearance comes when you could actually put yourself in a position to harm, to put the other person at a disadvantage. Right? An example of this could be you are engaged in an argument with a family member, and then you go to strike that family member out of the argument or what have you. And this is domestic abuse, this is domestic violence. However, you're putting the other party at a disadvantage, right? Because you're physically injuring them. Right? That's something that would fall within that category. And so when you're at the point of putting yourself in an advantageous position over the other, perhaps maybe you're driving, road rage, right? And maybe somebody cuts in front of you, cuts you off. Now, do you then speed up, switch lanes, or do you switch lanes and speed up, make a certain gesture with a finger maybe, and then cut that person off in tow, and then maybe almost cause an accident or what have you like that, or try to scare them somehow, or shout out curse words to them or something like that? You're trying to put yourself in an advantageous position out of your own ego. Instead of just letting it go, saying, okay, that was annoying, but whatever. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. I don't know. Or maybe they're just not that great of a person, but I'm just not going to put myself in a position where I'm just going to act out of spite. No. Not acting out of spite, not acting out of pettiness, right? Or not acting just out of one's own ego to reclaim some kind of position of authority that you seem to have lost. That's essentially what the ego is just trying to do. When we just act out of anger on our ego, we're just trying to reclaim some kind of position of authority that did we really even have? And just because we feel slighted or something such as that. And so forgiveness and forbearance, they manifest when the person's at a position of advantage, or they try to reclaim some kind of advantage over the other. Right? Bismillah, someone may affect forbearance because he is unable to act upon his anger and do what he wishes with his antagonist. This is not forbearance. Forbearance is having the ability to harm the one who has harmed you, but refraining from doing so out of good etiquette, seeking the pleasure of Allah. This is praiseworthy forbearance in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which raises a person's rank. La ilaha illallah. In the previous lesson, there was an example of the Prophet ﷺ's forbearance in his treatment of the Jewish man who came to him to claim what he owed before repayment was due. The Prophet ﷺ's patience was tested, but he responded with perfect forbearance. So this story, we're going to narrate this as a little bit of a longer story, but I'm going to narrate the whole hadith in full because it's an absolutely beautiful story as well that really shows. And when we're talking about emulating the people of patience, and so when it's talking about emulating forbearance as well, we would really see that from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so continuing. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's patience was tested, but he responded with perfect forbearance. This disbeliever was so impressed by what he saw of the chosen one sallallahu alaihi wasallam's forbearance that he became Muslim. On another occasion, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stopped to rest in a valley with his companions while returning from an expedition against the tribe of Banu al-Mustallaq. The Prophet ﷺ hung his sword in the branches of a tree and lay down to sleep. The companions left the tree to the Prophet ﷺ due to his breath and shade and dispersed to sleep under other trees. A Bedouin saw the Prophet ﷺ sleeping from his vantage point on the hillside and made his way past the companions to where he was. He seized the Prophet ﷺ's sword and the Prophet awoke. The Bedouin pointed a sword at him and said, "Who will protect you from me, O Muhammad?" Our Prophet ﷺ said, Allah. And when he pronounced this word, the man's heart trembled and the sword fell from his hand. The Prophet ﷺ picked up the sword, stood up and said, who will protect you from me now? And so here's the scene. He's sleeping under a tree. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam hangs his sword up. Companions disperse. And here comes one of the enemies coming across enemy lines. And he's standing before the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam took his sword and then was pointing his sword at the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and said, who's going to protect you? And the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam just said, Allah. And he said it in such a way that it caused the man to shake. And he dropped the sword and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam picked it back up. And then the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, who will then protect you from me now? And now pay attention, inshallah, just to the response of the enemy. In regards to this, it wasn't, it was something you wouldn't typically respect. He said no one. Even after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ just said, Allah. It's not as if the enemy was like, well, Allah's going to protect me. No, he knew no one's going to protect me. Because he wasn't there in belief yet. He knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to protect him. Just like that, in terms of putting himself in a position for that mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows the reality. He knew the truth. So no one really is going to protect me now. Because you're the messenger of Allah. Even though I'm not going to admit it yet. MashaAllah. He replied, you are free to do as you wish, but treat me well, is what he said. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I forgive you. And he sheathed the sword and returned it to its place. Then he called to wake his companions. They came, gathered round him, and saw the Bedouin. The Prophet ﷺ said to them, this man came, seized my sword, and said, who will protect you from me? I said to him, Allah, and the sword fell from his hand. So I took it and said, who will protect you from me? No one, he said, so I forgave him. The man returned to his people and said, by Allah, this behavior could only be that of a prophet. He then became Muslim and called his people to Islam due to the character of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Going back to the hadith we mentioned. He saw the helm of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in a position to cause him great harm. Could have killed him in that moment, or could have had one of the companions, radiallahu anhum, kill him as well. That could have happened. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ restrained himself, even when he was at the point of almost being killed by another. He restrained himself. He didn't act out of the anger that he could have justifiably felt for somebody trying to kill him. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And it's that kind of forbearance, right? Going into that other hadith that we first mentioned in the beginning. That forbearance is a quality that it puts you in the station of the prophets. That even this individual said, I saw something that could only be recognizable by a prophet of God, by one of the greatest persons, people of God. This was a man of God. And the greatest sign of this is that their forbearance, that at that point of anger, at the point in which they could put themselves in an advantageous position over me, at this point in which they could do me harm, he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, restrained and let me go and let it go. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And it also goes to show that when it comes to da'wah, or when it comes to inviting people to Islam, that the greatest of reasons for doing so isn't due to theological arguments and debunking myths and debunking fallacies and argumentation, what have you. The greatest reasons for inviting people to the religion or helping people to rediscover their religion or their connection to God subhanahu wa ta'ala is your own character. It's your own character. And it's a double-edged sword because if you have bad character, then that's also the biggest reason to dissuade people from religion and from following your path and your way. Who's going to want to join a group of people who show disgust, who show hatred, who show ugly qualities that aren't befitting really many human beings, right? Or they're just kind of arrogant, or they scoff at people who are not in their group. Right? But it's those individuals who show beautiful qualities, beautiful character. That's the greatest invitation that we could be. That's the greatest invitation in showing people the positivity of Islam in our workplaces, or just randomly in the subways and on our streets, or in our own households, amongst our families and friends as well, or when we're out in public, that this is the greatest thing that people can see from us, that this is who the Muslim is, this is who the person of God is, this is who the person who tries to connect themselves to faith, a person of faith, this is how they act. And when they see that beauty, they want to naturally incline towards that beauty. Human beings have a natural inclination to want to follow beauty, right? Or to incline towards beauty. And when they see the beauty in character, people will want to know. Right? At the very least, want to know. And they'll be pleased to see something so beautiful. If it's something that's replicated over and over and becomes pattern, that this must be something that's true, an inherent truth. And we know that the inherent truth of Islam is in the beauty of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so if we could those prophetic characteristics and use it in such a way in which we can beautify our own natural selves with, khalas, that'll take care of things, inshallah. It says a longer chapter, so let's move on so we don't spend too much time. Bismillah. Believers must train themselves, must train yourself. This ain't easy, right? Thousands of people may say on Yom Qiyamah out of how many millions and billions? The same. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for those who are lazy, right? The believers must train themselves to have forbearance. It is related in the hadith. Knowledge is only acquired by learning, and forbearance is only acquired through effort. The one who strives for goodness will be given it, and the one who strives to protect himself from evil will be protected from it. By learning, a person becomes knowledgeable after having been ignorant, and likewise the one who is prone to anger can attain forbearance by struggling against their lower self. By containing their anger and not acting upon it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes his pious slaves as being those who restrain their anger and pardon people. Right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ali Imran, 136th verse in Surah Ali Imran. And so, these are the people, right? These are the people who will be given from their Lord. The people of forbearance, the people who restrain themselves at the point of anger. These are the ones who, and it comes after a lot of ijtihad, it comes after a lot of effort, a lot of work. This is something we have to work on. We don't actively put ourselves in positions to be angry or what have you, but it's something we need to be conscious of. This is an element that brings in taqwa, God consciousness, God heartfulness, right? That we need to start being more self-aware, start being more conscious and more heartful of how we are when we're in certain situations. So that way we can change. So that way we can transform. So that way we can actually, the better word is, blossom. And move from this shell of ourselves and actually grow from that shell, from that bud, from that seed. Crack it open and grow. Move that hard exterior that we try to portray ourselves with and become real and actually grow into the beautiful flowers that we are. The beautiful flowers with the vast array of colors and petals that we can be. And so for an individual to go about the effort of trying to break open their shell and display beautiful qualities, and this beautiful quality of hilm, of forbearance, that no matter what difficulties, no matter what rain and thunderstorms may fall upon them, that the flower takes the rain and the thunderstorm and it grows even further, right? Because it takes in the nutrients, it takes in the moisture, it takes in the rain, and it uses it to grow. Whereas the seed in the rain and the thunderstorm is just washed away, going back and forth, or could be washed away into the soil or what have you, or drown in the water itself. Right? But a flower grows from a thunderstorm. And it goes to say that the one of forbearance, they grow even more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they take in the beauty of life and use life and all of its difficulties that could cause it ill. The person of forbearance uses it as a reason to even grow more beautiful in the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas somebody who just stays within their own seed of themselves and stays within their shell, that they just become washed away with the current, and they can't handle the difficulties, and they just stay inside, never to come out, never to break out, never to show the world their own inherent beauty that they could have. Nasallallahu salam wa afiyah. So once one of the servant girls of Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, who is the son of Imam al-Hussein, right? The son of Imam al-Hussein, alayhi salam, dropped a water pitcher on his son. So the servant girl, she dropped a water pitcher on his son. causing the son to die immediately. Just cause anybody anger and disgust, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the types of accidents that could harm our children. And so he looked at her and she said, those who restrain their anger, reciting the verse in the Quran. And so Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, great man of Allah, and you can see that this was a great woman of Allah and how she taught him as well. He said, I have restrained my anger. And then she said, and those who pardon all people. And so we're completing the ayah. And then he said, I have pardoned you. And then she said, for Allah, those who do good. And so then he said, I have set you free for the sake of Allah. And so this is also a smart, intelligent woman. Then an accident happened. But she also showed the kind of patience in that accident that allowed her to respond in a beautiful manner. And just like that, Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin also used forbearance where he could put himself in a position to harm her, to do her harm. Maybe even rightfully so that some of us feel. But in any regard, that he withheld himself and actually did good from the situation, from the terrible situation that he suffered, as opposed to doing harm. Right? As opposed to doing harm. What benefit would it do to do harm at that point of maybe a child dying due to an accident, other than satisfying the own emotional outbursts of yourself? Is that something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us with? Not necessarily, even though it's something horrible and terrible. But not lashing out on that anger. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see from us. To rein it in, inshallah ta'ala. We seek Allah's protection from putting ourselves in positions such as this. And it has thus been related in a hadith that there is no gulp greater in reward in Allah's sight than the gulp of the one swallowing his anger for the sake of Allah. And if someone contains their anger when they are able to vent it, Allah fills their hearts with peace and faith. Right? And the first one, in terms of the gulp of Allah, the hadith is narrated in Ibn Majah, At-Tabarani, and others. And as for the second one, if someone contains their anger when they are able to vent it, Allah fills their heart with peace and faith. And this is something that's been related in the collection of Ibn Abi Dunya as well. And so just to further exhort an individual to have these beautiful qualities, and that what results when we display these beautiful qualities of hilm, of forbearance, that we start to eventually start to have a sense of peace, tranquility, being able to see the greater picture behind things, that we exercise that faculty of intelligence to inhibit ourselves, then we're able to see more clearly and understand more clearly, that we don't go over the threshold of our anger, and so then we stay underneath that threshold so that way we can see things clearly. One of the things that's commonly said just in our modern times is that when people are at their angriest, they're at their stupidest. Right? When they're at their angriest, they're at their stupidest. People don't think when they get angry. They're not able to use their intelligence. But if we inhibit ourselves by using our intelligence, we use our intelligence and then inhibit ourselves therefrom, then we're able to see things more clearly, understand things more clearly, and make better decisions when we're able to make better decisions at those moments of intensity, inshallah ta'ala. So Muslims should ask themselves what their state is when they are angered. Anger should be channeled for the sake of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ, as we mentioned, did not become angry when someone wronged him. But if someone transgressed against Allah, no one could stand up to his anger. He only became angry for Allah's sake and never became angry for his own sake. Again, anger being something that is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no verse in the Quran that just says, don't ever feel angry. If you feel angry, that this is a sin. No. Jealousy, envy is a sin, a feeling, right? Temptation, desire, it can be sinful. However, anger is not. And so it's one that's, when we become angry for Allah's sake, and standing up saying we see somebody that, right, is stealing from another person. We become angry, and so we try to help the person catch the thief or what have you, or we tell the police or something like that, call the police. We're angry, so we're taking action. Right? And we see, our brothers and sisters from across the world and even in our own neighborhoods who are struggling, and maybe they're being oppressed by their governments or what have you, or refugees that are not being treated right in other countries. And so we get angry, and so then we move to action, we organize and we rally, or we contribute to charities or what have you, those positive expressions for anger. We get angry for that sake. And so it moves us to action, right? Doesn't mean that we're reckless. No. It's not going to be reckless. The Prophet ﷺ, when he got angry for the sake of Allah, it doesn't mean that he was reckless and a tyrant. No, no. But there are acceptable ways, there were appropriate ways for that anger to then be expressed at that moment. Right? It can be expressed at that moment. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One of these moments was when Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, she indicated about another wife. She was trying to relate something about another wife to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so she just indicated with her hand that she was shorter. She didn't say anything, but indicated with her hand that she was shorter. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam immediately rebuked her and mentioned that she mentioned an enormity in the sight of Allah. Right? Because even like a gesture about somebody, something that somebody wouldn't like, is included within the prophetic definition of backbiting. Backbiting is something that is a grave sin in Islam. Right? It's a grave sin in Islam. Now I'm not accusing Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala of backbiting herself, but just using this situation as an example to show that when it becomes to an enormity within the religion, that's when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they acted. No, this isn't right. Don't do that. That was his job as the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so the benefit and purpose of anger is to motivate the believer to defend the sacred law, right? As we saw in the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Without the existence of this anger, the religion could not be defended. Anger is present in human nature for a purpose known to Allah. The sacred law channels anger in the direction which Allah loves so that the religion of Allah is protected. Believers should ask themselves, what makes them angry? If their anger is aroused by a change in the worldly affairs or by someone insulting them, but is not aroused by hearing that someone has left performing the prayer, committed an act of disobedience, or by someone oppressing the Muslims, then they need to rectify their situation before Allah teaches them a lesson. The anger should not be aroused by a loss in wealth, if lunch is late, if dinner is not well cooked, or the bed is not made. Rather, their anger should be aroused by someone in the family failing to perform the prayer, saying something that is not pleasing to Allah, or spending time with someone who had a bad influence on them. A person's anger should be aroused if one of the people in the house goes out immodestly dressed or goes to meet strange individuals. If the anger is channeled according to the criteria of Islam, then its benefit will be experienced. Right? And so it goes to show, right? We need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. We need to check ourselves in the event that, what are we really getting angry for? Are we getting angry for slights to our own ego, where we have to gain some kind of authority over another, like road rage? Or perhaps somebody was late on submitting a report at work, right? And so we get angry and we abuse them at office because we're their supervisor, we can do that. What are the reasons that we're getting angry? And then conversely, when we return home, we mentioned how tough a day it was at the office, and your subordinates are not really, up to the task. They're not submitting their reports on time or whatever it is like that. But then you go in and, you go home and Asr passes by, you guys don't pray. Maghrib passes by, none of you pray. Aisha passes by, none of you pray. And then somebody calls you out for, hey, did you pray yet? No. I say, you should really pray. And you could, don't judge me, bro. No. It's not a situation in which we get angry for our own selves, but when it comes to the limits of Allah, that we expect to be excused and pardoned, and for others to show forbearance with us when it comes to the limits of Allah. No. Not at all. Not at all. And really, that's at the essence of hypocrisy. And so it goes to show that we really need to keep things into perspective when it comes to which we judge not by what we love and what we see, right, from our own vantage point, no, but by what Allah loves to see from us and what He would want to see from others. And when we go about to change a situation, that so long as within our ability to change it, right, and Prophet Muhammad advised us that if we can make a change about something, that we should do it in 3 different methodologies, right, with our hand, with our tongue, or with our heart. Right? And so if it doesn't fall within our capabilities to change something with our hands, then with our tongues. And if we can't do it with our tongues, then at least we hate it in our hearts. Right? And so long as it's something that we can control, then we go about changing that. But if it's not, then we need to fall back. We need to fall back. When it comes to the limits of Allah, if somebody is transgressing the limits of Allah and we get angry, we have to make sure that it still falls within our ability to change it and within our right to help change it. Such as maybe the kids are, your child is about to go eat haram food. Well, you can take the food maybe from your child and say, no, here, this is better for you to eat. Don't eat that. Don't eat that specific kind of candy. It's actually not good for you. Here, let me take that. Here, why don't you have this instead? Right? So if we can change it. Wallahu musta'an. If we can change it. And that's also from an aspect of patience. Knowing what our limits are, what we can change and what we can't change. What we're in a right to change and what we're not in a right to change. What we're not in a right to change. A lot of us don't respect that limit as well. That it's not right for us to maybe tell strangers from amongst women, right? And go cover and go wear your hijab or something like that. That's not our place. Right? That's not our place. We don't know them. They're not in our house. We don't. They're not our actual physical family members or what have you. What right do we have to call and criticize somebody for some kind of religious practice when what are we gonna put it on their heads for them? No, that'd be haram. We can't touch the opposite sex. No. And so it goes to show, that if we have the ability to control or to change something, not to control, but to change something, then we go about to change it, whether through our hands or through our actions or through our tongues or through our words. But if we're not, then maintain that feeling in the heart, that anger for the sake of Allah in the heart, but you don't express it, you don't act out on it and do something to abuse another individual. Right? Whether with your words or your actions, you don't go about abusing another individual. Bismillah. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we're going to finish up here. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so that if we do get angry, this is a couple of prophetic prescriptions that we can take if we get angry. So we'll just read through these and finish up. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught that if someone gets angry, they should change their position. If they are standing, they should sit down, and if they are sitting, they should lie down. These actions assuage a person's anger until they are able to control themselves. We have also been taught to perform ablution when we become angry, as is mentioned in the hadith, truly anger is from the devil. The devil is created from fire, and water extinguishes fire, so if one of you becomes angry, they should perform ablution. This is how anger should be dealt with if it arises suddenly. It has also been related that the devil says, I whisper in a man's heart, and if he becomes angry, I fly up to his head and play with it as a child plays with a ball. We seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's refuge from being overtaken by the whisperings of a shaitan that allows us to further indulge our anger and act outs as a result of it. Nasallallahu salam wa afiyah. And whether it's something where we can make wudu at the time, or we change our physical sitting or standing position or what have you, that engaging in that physicality can actually help ground us. Right, something that grounds us, engaging in our physical, changing our seating position, changing our standing position to a place of sitting or sitting to lying down, or making wudu and going about that process, then engaging in those physical acts helps to ground us, helps to bring us back to ourselves. Right? Helps us to bring us back to ourselves, and then, not stay up in our head where the devil can play with us. Not stay up in our head where we can succumb to the whispers, right? Or in our chest where we can succumb to those whispers. But we engage in something physical in order to replant ourselves, reground ourselves, and then be able to navigate from there and practice that hymn and practice that forbearance. And we end with the dua of the author. O Allah, bless us with forbearance and fill our hearts with the light of knowledge. Make us amongst the guided ones who guide others and give us the ability to do what you love and what gives you pleasure. May Allah bestow his blessings upon our Master Muhammad and upon all his family and your companions. And all praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he endows us with the beautiful quality of forbearance, with hilm, that he allows us to practice it in such a way in which we become nearest to the Anbiya, in which we become nearest to the Prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alayhimus salam, We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the type of forbearance where we don't get angry for the sake of our own ego. Rather, we get angry only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we do get angry for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we express it in such a way that is loving to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is appropriate at the situation and the time, and that is not in such a way that eventually transgresses the limits of Allah or the limits and the rights of other people. Nasallallahu salam wa afiyah. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين 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 وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Everybody have a beautiful day. Bismillah.